All right. Hey, welcome to this episode of Let's Talk About the Movies. This one's going to be a fun one. I'm actually going to break this up into two different parts. There's going to be a spoiler-free part, and then about halfway through, we're going to go into spoilers on this particular movie. But I felt like that might be easier than actually having to do two different videos, basically. Okay, so first part of this, and then the second part. So just be warned that we will this first part spoiler free, second part spoiler filled, and that is for the movie Deadpool and the Wolverine. All right, so I went and saw Deadpool and the Wolverine yesterday. So I don't know whenever you'll end up watching this. It was the most latest movie that I went and saw in theaters. Was really excited about this movie. A couple different reasons I was excited about this movie. The first reason I was excited was I'm a big fan of the first two Deadpool movies. That's a big reason why I was excited. So Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2. Now, both of these movies are very adult. So for some that are not as excited or into very adult content, and again, adult content, that sounds like they're pornos. They're not pornos. They're very crude in their language, and they're very bloody in their action. Again, this is a hero. This is a anti-hero who uses guns and swords to take out bad guys. It's very difficult to do that type of movie. You know, I'm not really sure what it would look like. I think actually Deadpool 2 has an alternative PG-13 version that looks like dirty water half the time. It kind of reminds me of The Patriot, how there's the TV Patriot version where he's taking the hatchet to the guy. And in that TV version, it's just like brown mud. It looks like he's taking a hammer and it's just like brown mud going everywhere. I think there's a Deadpool 2 version that's that way. Maybe they'll make on the on-demand release. Maybe they'll do a similar thing with this movie and make it a PG-13 version as well. I'm not sure. But again, what I'm going to go into with this is this podcast is Let's Talk About the Movies. This is not it's me reviewing the movie, but in a position, in a context that is about my thoughts on it, what I loved about it, maybe the things that just didn't resonate with me, but out of a place of learning and growing and just a love for film, a love for cinema, a love for this art form, and how can, either I as a filmmaker grow in that filmmaking ability, or as a consumer, how entertained, was I, did this thing do its job and entertain me in the way that I wanted to be entertained at the summer blockbuster. And so again, I'll go over, I like to read just the quick synopsis from IMDb. Deadpool is offered a place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, by the Time Variance Authority, but instead recruits a variant of Wolverine to save his universe from extinction. So this is the most creative mashup that there could have been. So Deadpool and most of X-Men and Wolverine was created by 20th Century Fox pre-Marvel, pre the Disney buyout. And so Deadpool and Wolverine existed outside of Avengers. And so in this version, we basically we see that coming together of the two worlds. And in a very creative way, they take what we saw, if you've seen the Loki, the Time Variance Authority comes from the Loki seasons, where basically in the universe, if you will, in this, maybe I'll put a little picture of what it looks like in the show here, but in this multiverse, there's the main timeline, and then there's these branches of timeline, and they're a policing force that makes sure that everybody stays in that one timeline. And basically what they did was, that's what it is in Loki, but what they did in this is they said, hey, all of those superheroes in the 20th Century Fox world, they're in these separate timelines that they're actually considering getting rid of because of basically this buyout in the MCU. And so Deadpool is going to not just save, in a way, he's not just saving he's trying to save his timeline, but he's also trying to save other people's as well, which in the end, Well, anyways, that'll be for the spoiler side of this. But it's a very creative way. So basically, he has a tryout. He has this little meetup with Happy Hogan where he tries to get into the Avengers and doesn't get into the Avengers. I would say the one plot hole I had, and this is very in the beginning. This is not necessarily a spoiler because it's very much at the beginning of the movie. I would say that the one plot hole I had was I was a little confused on where this Deadpool actually lived in regards to the movies before. It seemed like it was very much referencing Deadpool 1 and 2, but there was a lot of people who were alive. There was a lot of people who were alive in this world that he's trying to save, that they were dead in Deadpool 2. So that part was a little confusing. I'd have to probably watch it again to really catch like what I missed there. But yeah, I would say that it gets an A+ on creativity in molding, like how do you bring the MCU into how do you bring these characters, the Daredevils or the Daredevils, the Deadpools, the Wolverines into the MCU, and this was a very creative way of doing it. One of the beautiful things that I love about Deadpool movies in general is that they don't take themselves super serious, and if anything, they make fun of the things that we all make fun of, and that's one of the things they do in this movie is that they even make fun of it. Some of the bigger plot holes and the bigger issues with the MCU, even they make fun of it in this movie. So, I mean, look, I personally, I would love to obviously someday say that in my career, I could make a big blockbuster movie like this, but in reality, that's just not where I'm headed. I don't know how much this is a type of movie. This is not anything that I can really glean from and say like, oh, this is the kind of movie I want to make. I hope to make a movie like this someday. Like really, this is in essence just pure summer fun. This is, to me, film tends to be artistic and then fun. I think the big reason why, like last year, or was it last year? Yeah, last year, Oppenheimer and Barbie came out the same weekend around this time last year. The reason I believe that those were successful is Oppenheimer is an artistic, creative art movie in IMAX, but an art movie, and Barbie is just fun. It's just fun. That's where Deadpool and Wolverine sit. This is a movie that works, and it's because it's a fun movie. And I think that as much as I love artistic movies, this is an element that you have to give the audience an experience. Like at the end of the day, if I'm going to spend money on a ticket, I'm going to spend on overpriced popcorn. I need to have an experience. If you're not giving me an experience in the movie theater, then it's not worth it. And I think that obviously it's been worth it. This has got an estimated budget of $200 million, which is super bloated, which you totally feel in this compared to the budgets they had in the last two movies. But just this weekend, they made 205 just in the U.S. and Canada. In the world, they're at 438. They're almost at $500 million in the opening weekend, which means that this is very much on its way to make $1 billion at the box office, which is crazy that a movie featuring Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be probably kissing the $1 billion mark. And this doesn't have Robert Downey Jr. in it, which is something else that I just want to add in there. As much as they are bringing back Hugh Jackman, they are bringing Hugh Jackman back as the Wolverine, which we all love. And we're getting to see him do something that we've all wanted him to do. And I will say that the latest announcement of Robert Downey Jr. coming back to the MCU as a villain, just is so dumb to me. And the only thing that I thought of, and maybe this is the cynical side in me, the only thing that I could come up with mentally was like, he's been missing that paycheck. He died as Iron Man in Endgame and he retired from the MCU. And it was like, man, I really miss that massive payoff from these huge movies. And so I'm now going to be the next big villain in the Avengers universe. And I don't love it. I love Doctor Doom in the MCU, and the fact that they're bringing a Doctor Doom to the Marvel Cinematic Universe could be a lot of fun. But I definitely feel like having it be Robert Downey Jr., I'm curious. I mean, there's a lot of people that are really pumped about this. I don't know if I'm gonna like. I went and saw this opening weekend. I was really hoping that I was gonna get to see it opening weekend. I did get to see it opening weekend. I don't feel that same way, that same drive about Avengers. You know, that's just not something that I see myself having in a year to 2 years from now, where I'm like, oh man, I've got to go see this in theaters. I probably will catch it in theaters, a matinee on a Wednesday morning, maybe, or something. I don't know. We'll see. I think I'll watch it because I love movies and I'm doing this podcast. Outside of that, I just don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what kind of storylines. Again, the Russo brothers are coming back for that. But I will say this movie was a nod and nostalgic, but also had so many different layers of new and different and things that we've wanted to see but hadn't seen yet before, and creatively put it all together. And it was not the best movie of the year by any stretch. Bike Riders and a few others are still in that mix, but it was definitely, man, I had a lot of fun. And it's been a while since there was a movie that I would be like, ooh, I want to go see that again in theaters. This would be a movie I would totally go back and see again in theaters. It was a lot of fun. So here comes the spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, because that's the best way to talk about this movie, is the best parts of this movie are the spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, right now, shut it off, and come back to this later. Giving you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoilers.
I feel like we were missing something. Oh, I know what it is. It's gonna get good.
This is a beautiful, in a weird way, which I did not expect this. This is what makes this movie so good for me and why I loved it so much in reality, is that I grew up a huge fan of the 20th Century Fox superhero movies, right? So the X-Men franchise, Fantastic Four, Daredevil and Elektra. Those movies were some of my favorites as a kid. Again, the first X movie came out was when I was 10. So all of those movies, and that, this is my 10 to 16 years old. My teenage years of superheroes were 20th Century Fox, Marvel. And so those are some of my favorite movies. And this is a Deadpool movie, and through R-rated Deadpool movie, but it's also this beautiful nod to the 20th Century Fox world and basically how that Marvel universe is over. It's gone, but it nods to it. And so one of the ways that it does that is obviously through Deadpool and Wolverine, and having Hugh Jackman come back and things like that. But it also does it in a way that I didn't expect, which is it brings back Chris Evans as the Human Torch. Deadpool thinks that it's Captain America, that Captain America has come to help them, and it's actually him as the Human Torch and the Fantastic Four, which was such a great, again, this, making fun of it, but also a great nod. You've got Pyro and Sabretooth coming back from the X-Men series, as well as a bunch of others. Those are the actual actors, but then there's a bunch of actors playing roles to look very similar, like some of those characters. You have Toad and Juggernaut and Psylocke and Lady Deathstrike on the background of this world where basically, if you've seen the Loki world, all of these 20th Century Fox heroes have been put into the void. They're lost to time and space. But that's where these 20th Century Fox Marvel heroes would be, right? They're variants. They're not in that main timeline of the MCU. They're these variants out in the world. And so we have so many of great ones. And then obviously towards the end of the movie and the Act 3 kind of climax, you have this incredible moment where we get Wesley Snipes as Blade, Jennifer Gardner as Elektra, and then Channing Tatum comes as Gambit, which we never got. And they make fun of that. They make fun of the fact that he doesn't really know where he existed or where he came from, which basically Channing Tatum was attached to play Gambit for a very long time. That was something that was going to happen, or they talked about doing. And a lot of people were excited to actually get a Gambit. The best part of it, bringing back all of these characters, even all of these other villains and different people in that universe, is normally when they show up, right when they showed up, they had some lines, they cracked some jokes. You love that. But then you would think like, oh, well, then they're going to just die. Something's just going to happen and they're going to instantly go away. But what was so great about this was they didn't just die. They actually did them a justice. They all got a very badass fight scene at the end of the movie, which was excellent. And it really was just a big nod. And then, of course, they don't make it out, but we get X-23. We get, Wolverine and Deadpool. We get Elektra. And that was just something that I really did, appreciate, and I didn't expect. And then obviously in the post credit scene, one of the coolest parts in the post credit scene was basically that they did a behind the scenes montage of all of those movies, from Fantastic Four to Daredevil to Elektra to the X-Men series, hearing Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman talk as young men, talk about the great honor it is to play these characters and be in these roles. And I just thought that was really cool. It was cool because, again, being a young kid, growing up, 20th Century Fox, Marvel was my favorite Marvel, and it's over. It's new. It's all been absorbed into the MCU. It's now all Disney, and so it's going to be different. We're not really going to ever get those again. And I think that this was a great little nod to all of those. And so, I commend Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy, the director, for doing it. Again, I think that Sean Levy is an executive producer on Stranger Things. He is so good with, I think, touching the nostalgic feelings. They make a lot of fun movies. Sean's made a lot of fun movies. One of my favorites is Date Night with Steve Carell and Tina Fey. But Sean is really good at nostalgia. Obviously, him and the brothers who made Stranger Things, they've done nostalgia very well. And they did it with this. They hit all of the points, everything that the fans wanted, but in a very unique way that wasn't just simply like, oh, they're just shoving this in there. They crafted a great story around the nostalgia that made it kind of believable, like it was in this world, and it was great. The ending was a little unique for me. I'm curious if Deadpool is going to show up in the MCU, if Hugh Jackman's going to come back. I mean, he has Wade Wilson, Deadpool, has a lot of lines saying that they're going to have you here until you're 90. Not sure if that's going to happen. But man, a lot of fun. Again, very R-rated, but a lot of fun at the movie theaters for a good summer blockbuster. And again, response, from the fans is huge. I mean, to have, they just breaking records. AMC has come out and said that this is their biggest. This is the sixth biggest debut in box office history, but AMC is saying it's their biggest weekend in the history of their company, from everything from the butts and seats as well as even, sodas and popcorn. I feel like this is something that keeps happening is through the spring. A lot of the press and media is that, like, we still haven't gotten back to box office numbers pre-COVID. But then there'll be this July where we just have these huge box office releases. And we saw this with Barbenheimer last year, and now this year with Deadpool and Wolverine. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how this progresses. We've got some more great movies coming out over into the fall. But then once we get into next year, I mean, there's a lot of good movies coming out in February and in the spring. Not sure what's going to work and what's not going to work. But it's really great. I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, this was just me talking about movies. That's what this is. Let's talk about movies. I try to keep everything relatively positive. Again, do I have problems with this movie? Like I said, there's some definite plot holes. Definitely would like to get a rewatch, see if I can. Maybe I missed something, things like that. But at the end of the day, my heart, what I love to do is talk about movies with you guys. Make sure to put in the comments, did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you want to see it? Have you not seen it? Make sure you put all of that in there. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. And then also make sure if you want to, if you're somebody like myself that either is trying to get into the film industry or like myself is in the film industry and you're wanting to collaborate and come together, have more conversations like this, build community with other filmmakers and people who love film, make sure to check out in the link below Skip Film School so that we can connect in more ways, and excited about more of these to come. All right, see you next week.